All right.
We're good? Should I begin? Okay.
Hare Krishna, everyone. I wanted to welcome you to this week's virtual Sunday feast. And apologies, I had just closed out of the announcements, but a few exciting notes. The first is the temple is now open as of yesterday. So the temple will be open for darshan only, Saturdays and Sundays. Saturday from 4 p.m. until 6:30 p.m. and Sundays from 3 p.m. until 6:30 p.m. Also, an especially exciting announcement, mark your calendars for Sunday, July 26th. There will be a Rath Yatra here in Chicago this year. So in spite of everything that's going on in the world around us, Lord Jagannath, Baladev, and Subhadramarni are still so kind to give us that opportunity. So more details will be coming out in the near future on that, but mark your calendars for Sunday, July 26th. Also, after class, stay tuned. There's a special surprise presentation on behalf of the youth here at ISKCON Chicago. Also, if you have not registered yet for Festival of the Holy Name, taking place online this year, please do so. Registration information is the regular temple emails, as well as through the ISKCON Chicago website. So please take advantage of that. It's going to be a fantastic lineup of speakers, including His Holiness Romapada Swami, who is tonight's speaker, His Grace Badahari Prabhu, and His Grace Ravindra Swarup Prabhu. Also, many of us are aware that with the COVID-19 situation, the funding sources for the temple have become more limited. So there's been a request to please donate generously to the temple to assist the temple in continuing its services. So for the pleasure of Sri Sri Kishore Kishori and Srila Prabhupada, we can take this as an opportunity to serve them in this way. Since we're not able to continue in our services in person at the temple at this time. And many thanks on behalf of the temple management for your continued support. Finally, I'll turn it over to tonight's speaker, His Holiness Romapada Swami, who will be continuing on the Brilliant as the Sun series by speaking on duties of mankind.
Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Madhava Kunja Bihari Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivardhari Jana Vallabha Girivardhari Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivardhari Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivardhari Jasodanandana Prajajanarandjana Jasodanandana Prajajanarandjana Jasodanandana Prajajanarandjana Yamuna Tira Vanachari Yamuna Tira Vanachari Yamuna Tira Vanachari Vanachari Jaya Radha Madhava Bihari Jadadha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivardhari Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivardhari Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivardhari Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivardhari Jasodanandana Prajajanarandana Jasodanandana Prajajanarandana Jasodanandana Prajajanarandana Yamuna Tiravanachari Yamuna Tiravanachari Natira Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Kishore Kishori ki, Gaur Premanandi. Very different way of holding a Sunday program, but we're getting used to it, kind of. Last Sunday, the topic that I spoke on was from the Canto 1, Chapter 9 of Srimad Bhagavatam, dealing with Grandfather Bhishma lying on the bed of arrows, being visited by the Pandavas, and the words spoken by Grandfather Bhishma to pacify the grieving Maharaj Yudhisthira, who was feeling terrible, with the idea that I'm the cause of so many persons dying on the battlefield. For what reason? So I can rule as the emperor. What a horrible person I am. He was thinking in those ways. And Krishna tried to pacify him, but by Krishna's arrangement, Krishna was unable to pacify him because he wanted Grandfather Bhishma to pacify him. Because Krishna likes giving attention and privilege and special affection to his devotee. And Grandfather Bhishma is one of his great devotees. So I won't repeat what that message was last Sunday, but what I'd like to do is read a few verses, just the words spoken by Grandfather Bhishma following whatever he said to Yudhisthira about simply accept the plan of the Lord, although we may not understand what it is due to the force of time. Time moves things, and inevitable time, invincible time, is to be accepted. Krishna wants you to rule, so do what Krishna wants. And then he spoke some nice words in glorification of Krishna, because Grandfather Bhishma, very similar to the previous chapter, which is spoken by Kunti, both Kunti and Grandfather Bhishma are really clear that Krishna's position is he's the supreme person. Krishna is the supreme person. And his words speak like that. This Sri Krishna, because Krishna's right there too. So the scene is he's lying on the bed of arrows in the battlefield. And surrounding him, there's Krishna and the Pandava brothers, all 5 of them, and many other sages and great personalities, because it's his departure, and they're there to wish him well and see him off to his next destination. Of course, we know where his next destination is, because he is completely fixed on Krishna. When he leaves his body, when you do that, you know where you're going. You're going to Krishna. So he understands Krishna as the supreme person. It was spoken of many times. One of the celebrated circumstances is during the Rajasuya sacrifice. He was called upon by Maharaj Yudhisthira as the elder, most learned, wise person to speak something. And he just spoke about Krishna. And that was the incident where Shishupal couldn't take it. So he stood up in the middle of the assembly and started blaspheming Krishna. You know the story. So he knew Krishna's position. Now he's going to speak some words. This Sri Krishna is no other than the invincible, original personality of Godhead. He is the first Narayana, the supreme enjoyer. But he is moving amongst the descendants of King Vrishni, just like one of us. And he is bewildering us with his self-created energy. O King, Lord Shiva, Narada, the sage amongst the demigods, and Kapila, the incarnation of Godhead, all know very confidentially about his glories through direct contact. O King, that personality whom, out of ignorance only, you thought to be your maternal cousin, your very dear friend, your well-wisher, counselor, messenger, benefactor, etc., is that very supreme personality of Godhead, Sri Krishna. Being the absolute personality of Godhead, he is present in everyone's heart. He is equally kind to everyone. And he is free from false ego of differentiation. Therefore, whatever he does is free from material inebriety. He is equal balanced. Yet, despite his being equally kind to everyone, he has graciously come before me while I am ending my life, for I am his unflinching servitor. The personality of Godhead who appears in the mind of the devotee by attentive devotion and meditation, and by chanting of the holy name, releases the devotee from the bondage of fruitive activities at the time of his quitting his material body. May my Lord, who is four-handed and whose beautifully decorated lotus face with eyes as red as the rising sun is smiling, kindly await me at that moment when I quit this material body, because we know Grandfather Bhishma received a benediction from his father that he didn't have to relinquish his body until he chose to. And otherwise, he was invincible. So his body's finished, but he's still in his body because the time isn't right yet. Maharaj Yudhisthira, after hearing Bhishma Dev speak in that appealing tone, asked him in the presence of all the great rishis about the essential principles of various religious duties. So that's this topic, duties of mankind. Now, in one sense, when somebody's in the position that Grandfather Bhishma is in, you don't ask him to give a Bhagavatam class. But Grandfather Bhishma is very special. And it's inspired by Krishna to show how special he is. In addition to pacifying Maharaj Yudhisthira after the war was over, he's now speaking on the duties of mankind. Some of you may have seen, and if you haven't, find out how to get to see the movie, the Hare Krishna movie. You've seen it. Have you seen it? Ah. So in that film, in that movie, there's a scene of Srila Prabhupada speaking softly into a microphone in his emaciated final days of his life. Like Grandfather Bhishma giving instructions of Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 10, Chapter 13, Bhaktivedanta purports, in that physical condition. It's just incredible. Simply incredible. So Grandfather Bhishma, Prabhupada's departure was likened to Grandfather Bhishma's departure, where he was also delivering transcendental knowledge to the new king of the world. So his instruction to Yudhisthira was, Krishna wants you to rule. So do what Krishna wants. So now he's saying, if I'm going to rule, then please tell me how I should rule. Because one of the duties of the king is to see that everyone has proper engagement. What are the duties of the persons who you're going to rule, and ensure that they're doing their duties? So it's not like he didn't know, but he wanted to hear directly from the mouth of Grandfather Bhishma. So I'm going to read, it's a long purport, quite long. I hope you don't mind hearing transcendental teachings on the duties. At Maharaj Yudhisthira's inquiry, Grandfather Bhishma Dev first defined all the classifications of caste and orders of life in terms of the individual's qualifications. That's varnashram. Then he systematically, in twofold divisions, described counteraction by detachment and interaction by attachment, which is a little confusing. But I'll explain that at the end. So that our topic this Sunday is duties of mankind, and who is better one to describe them than Grandfather Bhishma. This is just a simple summary of some items that are found in Bhishma Parva, Bhishma's instructions. So here we go. The conception of four castes and four orders of life as planned by the Lord himself, Bhagavad Gita 4:13, that verse 4:13, Chatur Varnam Maya Shrishtam Guna Karma Vibhagasha, Krishna says, Maya Shrishtam, I've created this system differentiated by guna and karma. What's the purpose? Is to accelerate transcendental qualities of the individual person so he may gradually realize his spiritual identity and thus act accordingly to get free from material bondage or conditional life. In almost all the Puranas, the subject matter is described in the same spirit, and so in the Mahabharata, it is more elaborately described by Bhishma Dev in the Shanti Parva, beginning from the 16th chapter. So not Bhishma Parva, but Shanti Parva. So I'll read. The duties of a Brahmana. The Varnashram system is prescribed for the civilized human being just to train him to successfully terminate human life. Self-realization is distinguished from the life of the lower animals engaged in eating, sleeping, fearing, and mating. Bhishma Dev advised for all human beings 9 qualifications. Do you want to be a human being? Here's some qualifications. 1, not to become angry. 2, not to lie. 3, to equally distribute wealth. 4, to forgive. 5, to beget children only by one's legitimate wife. 6, to be pure in mind and hygienic in body. 7, not to be inimical toward anyone. 8, to be simple. And 9, to support servants or subordinates. Human beings. One cannot be called a civilized person without acquiring the above mentioned preliminary qualities. Besides these, the Brahmanas, the intellectual men, the administrative men, the mercantile community, and the laborer class must acquire special qualities in terms of occupational duties mentioned in all the Vedic scriptures. For the intelligent men, controlling the senses is the most essential qualification. It is the basis of morality. Sex indulgence, even with a legitimate wife, must also be controlled, and thereby family control will automatically follow. An intelligent man abuses his great qualifications if he does not follow the Vedic way of life. This means he must seriously make a study of the Vedic literatures, especially the Srimad Bhagavatam and the Bhagavad Gita. For learning Vedic knowledge, one must approach a person who is 100% engaged in devotional service. He must not do things which are forbidden in the Shastras. A person cannot be a teacher if he drinks or smokes. In the modern system of education, the teacher's academic qualification is taken into consideration without evaluation of his moral life. Therefore, the result of education is misuse of higher intelligence in so many ways. The end of paragraph doesn't elaborate. The Kshatriya, the member of the administrative class, is especially advised to give charity, and then in italics, not to accept charity in any circumstance. Goes by another word, bribery, giving charity to a government officer. Modern administrators raise subscriptions for some political functions, but never give charity to the citizens at any state function. It is just the reverse in the injunctions of the Shastras. The administrative class must be well versed in the Shastras, but must not take to the profession of teachers. The administrator should never pretend to become nonviolent and thereby go to hell. When Arjuna wanted to become a nonviolent coward on the battlefield of Kurukshetra, he was severely chastised by Lord Krishna. The Lord degraded Arjuna at that time to the status of uncivilized man for his avowed acceptance of the cult of nonviolence. The administrative class must be personally trained in military education. Cowards should not be elevated to the presidential throne by dint of numerical votes only. The monarchs were all chivalrous persons, and therefore monarchy should be maintained provided the monarch is regularly trained in the occupational duties of a king. In fighting, the king or the president should never return home without being hurt by the enemy. The so-called king of today never visits the warfield. He is very much expert at artificially encouraging the fighting strength in the hope of false national prestige. As soon as the administrative class is turned into a gang of mercantile and labor men, the whole machinery of government becomes polluted. Strong language. Paragraph. The Vaishyas, the members of the mercantile community, are especially advised to protect the cows. Cow protection means increasing the milk productions, namely curd and butter. Agriculture and distribution of the foodstuff are the primary duties of the mercantile community, backed by education in Vedic knowledge and trained to give in charity. As the Kshatriyas were given charge of the protection of the citizens, Vaishyas were given the charge of protection of animals. Animals are never meant to be killed. Killing of animals is a symptom of a barbarian society. For a human being, agricultural produce, fruits, and milk are sufficient and compatible foodstuffs. The human society should give more attention to animal protection. The productive energy of the laborer is misused when he is occupied by industrial enterprises. Industry of various types cannot produce the essential needs of man, namely rice, wheat, grains, milk, fruits, and vegetables. The production of machines and machine tools increases the artificial living fashion of a class of vested interests and keeps thousands of men in starvation and unrest. This should not be the standard of civilization. We're getting close to finished. Here comes the final in the occupation class is the workers. The Shudra class is less intelligent and should have no independence. They are meant for rendering sincere service to the three higher sections of the society. The Shudra class can attain all comforts of life simply by rendering service to the higher classes. It is especially enjoined that a Shudra should never bank money. As soon as the Shudras accumulate wealth, it will be misused for sinful activities in wine, women, and gambling. Wine, women, and gambling indicate that the population is degraded to less than Shudra quality. It's all over the place. The higher castes should always look after the maintenance of the Shudras, and they should provide them with old and useless and used garments. A Shudra should not leave his master when the master is old and invalid, and the master should keep the servants satisfied in all respects. The Shudras must, first of all, be satisfied by sumptuous food and clothing before any sacrifice is performed. In this age, so many functions are held by spending millions, but the poor laborer is not sumptuously fed or given charity, clothing, etc. That's in italics. The laborers are thus dissatisfied, and so they make agitation. Now here's the final paragraph that helps to understand this little puzzling statement. In twofold divisions, Bhishma described counteraction by detachment and interaction by attachment. So I'll read the paragraph and then we'll spend some time discussing that one. The Varnas, final paragraph. The Varnas, so these occupational divisions, are, so to speak, classifications of different occupations. And ashram dharma is gradual progress to the path of self-realization. Both are interrelated and one is dependent on the other. The main purpose of ashram dharma is to awaken knowledge and detachment. The Brahmacari ashram is the training ground for the prospective candidates. In this ashram, it is instructed that this material world is not actually the home of the living being. The conditioned souls under material bondage are prisoners of matter, and therefore self-realization is the ultimate aim of life. The whole system of ashram dharma is a means to detachment. One who fails to assimilate this spirit of detachment is allowed to enter into family life with the same spirit of detachment. Therefore, one who attains detachment may at once adopt the fourth order, namely renounced, and thus live on charity only, not to accumulate wealth, but just to keep body and soul together for ultimate realization. So here's this phrase: household life is for one who is attached, in italics, one who is attached, and the vanaprastha and sannyas orders of life are for those who are detached from material life. The Brahmacari ashram is especially meant for training both the attached and detached. So let's go back to the beginning. This is Grandfather Bhishma's teachings found in Mahabharata. And some of you are probably familiar with the story of Prahlad Maharaj, very much revered section from Srimad Bhagavatam. And the speaker there is Narada Muni. Narada Muni tells the whole story of Prahlad and Hiranyakashipu and everything. And when the story is done, Yudhishthira, who's hearing from Narada, says, wow, Prahlad Maharaj was really elevated. How can one become elevated like that? Because I'm to become the king, and it's my duty to help elevate the citizens. So how can persons become elevated like that? Good question. It leads to a several chapter answer. And the beginning, Narada says, the means of coming to that stage is the system of varnashram. It's to elevate one to that stage. And then it leads to more direct bhakti than just considering psychophysical nature and engaging accordingly. But even before that happens, one has to be a human being. And he gives some very nice descriptions of the qualities of a human being, just like it's here. Here it's a list of 9, and there it's a much longer list. So you can have a shorter list, a longer list. But there are standard characteristics in any society, in any part of the world, where a civilized human being has certain traits. Just a little sharing, I think it's relevant. During Srila Prabhupada's time, he, in the concluding year and a half or so, he made strong emphasis on ISKCON developing a model of Varnashram for the world. And for some, it was not clear. Did he want us to just kind of show the world this is how you do it, or is it something that he felt we needed ourselves for spiritual elevation? Because the main teachings of the Bhagavatam is Bhagavad Dharma, hearing and chanting. And by hearing about Krishna, remembering Krishna, chanting about Krishna, and so forth, then detachment and knowledge awaken. isn't it? That's what the teaching says. There's a nice verse in Canto 1, Chapter 2, where it says that specifically. Vasudeve Bhagavati Bhakti Yoga Prayojataha Janayati Ashu Vairagyam Jnanam Cha Yadahaitukam. It's a nice verse. Through devotional service to Krishna Vasudeva, causelessly, naturally, as a byproduct, knowledge and detachment arise. Jnanam cha yad ahaitukam, without any other hetu, without any cause. Bhakti brings that about. And Srila Prabhupada remarked that in our society, some of our members are not properly chanting. They're not properly chanting their Gayatri mantras. They're not doing the vidhis of Bhagavad Dharma. Therefore, we must have. So he wanted. Anyways, there's many things he said about the Varnashram system. And it's not been well carried out, in part because devotees didn't know exactly how to go about it. Like, what's it look like? And then even more important, how do you start to get there? What's the step-by-step procedure? So I'm just sharing with you a little, it's been, 40 years, and it's still not well defined what it is and how to get there. So in Hungary, they have a well-developed farm community, totally self-sufficient, totally off the grid, meaning no electricity and all those things. And they're living very, very happily, very prosperously. And they've taken very seriously at the farm and in the whole of Hungary the topic of Varnashram. And because I happen to know what they went through, they spent months and months and months and months and months, kind of like in a think tank way of how do we go about it and what's it going to look like. And they concluded that before we start talking about how to go about it and what it looks like, we have to become human beings. Although they're practicing devotees. And so they collectively worked on a book that speaks of the qualities that Narada identifies in Canto 7, the qualities of a human being. And they decided, as a group of devotees, we're going to focus on one of those qualities per month and try to develop those qualities within ourselves. And then a book was written on what those qualities are and what they look like. And life of practicing devotees. Very practical, very practical. Which I'm bringing this up because it's identical with what's right here in Canto 1, Chapter 9. You want to become self-realized? Start with this, become a human being. And there are certain qualities that are important. And they're not exactly theistic. They're moral, but it's not exactly God-centered, but it's become civilized. And these are characteristics of a civilized person. And then one can start to consider, according to your nature, here are duties that are suitable for you because you're going to do them from the civilized position and so forth. And then comes this final, because I won't go through again the Brahmana, Kshatriya, Vaishya, Shudra. They're very nicely articulated, so you can go back and read it again if you want to. It's text 26, 1926, from your Bhagavatam set that you have in your home. 1926. But this final is how the ashram part fits together with the varna part. And it's rooted in the same principles, knowledge and detachment. And the knowledge position is to know who you are. Those of you that saw the Hare Krishna movie, you might want to go back and see it again and again. I watched it 6 or 7 times. It's really powerful. And one of the images in that film that for me was really outstanding was this interview with a TV personality who said, Swamiji, would you like to share with everybody, share with us what's your main message to the people here in the West? Something like that. And Prabhupada said, to know yourself. And the reporter repeated, to know yourself. And Prabhupada said, to know yourself. Now, that's a short phrase and it means a lot, because to know yourself says, you're not the body. The self, the soul is part of the Supreme. That's because you don't know who the Supreme is and what your function is in relation to the Supreme. It's incomplete. You don't really know the self. And what's the Supreme in relation to the world around you, because you interact with the world around you, that's part of knowing yourself. But just said, to know yourself. Know thyself. It's where Bhagavad Gita starts. And it's the message of Bhagavad Gita, is self-realization. So self-realization isn't just something intellectual or philosophical. It's how you live your life. That's when you know who you really are, you live your life that way. Or when you are living your life according to who you really are, that's the life of a self-realized soul. Not just something you can say or read in a book and explain, but you live by. In very practical terms. So here we are with the practical terms of the Brahmacari ashram is emphasis on, there's 2 things that are mentioned. One is, this is not a real home. I mean, no, it's not to say these are not your family members and your relatives and friends. But that's temporary. And some of you may be familiar with the story of King Chitraketu. King Chitraketu in the 6th canto. He was a king that was very despondent because there was no son. And a lot of things happened. And Angira Muni made an arrangement by a yagya that he could have a son. But he told him, your son will bring you both happiness and distress. And he was thinking, well, my son may be a little disobedient sometimes, but better to have a son that's disobedient than no son at all. So it wasn't just disobedient. He gave him his name, Harsha Shoka. Distress and happiness, or happiness and distress. That was his name. Harsha Shoka. Happiness, distress. So when the son was born, he was so happy. But the co-wives, the other queens that were not the mother of that son, were neglected. Not intentionally, but he was so affectionate to his son, he just totally neglected the co-wife. That was a bad plan, because they became envious and they poisoned the boy. And then came the shoka part, the lamentation. So then he was terribly, disturbed, and he imparted transcendental knowledge. Angira and came with Narada. The 2 of them came together, knowing what was going to happen, because they could see past, present, future. They showed up at the right time and said the right things and lifted him from this lamentation of the temporary, and then began to teach him bhakti. Because when there's detachment through knowledge, then bhakti is very nicely nourished. But if one is too much attached, then bhakti doesn't awaken. So It was a setup. He was given the opportunity for detachment from the temporary so he could hear the message of bhakti. And he got it. And then a very interesting thing happened. Narada went over to the body of the dead child in the crib, placed his hand on his chest, and said, "My dear boy, don't you see your mother and father are so much filled with lamentation? Please come back and be with them." And the boy sat up. And he looked right at Narada. He didn't even look at his father. He just looked right at Narada and said, "Narada, who is my father? And who is my mother? I have had so many lifetimes with so many mothers and so many fathers." And on and on and on. And I was with my eternal father, and you've asked me to come. I'm going back. He laid back down. And King Chitraketu went, "Wow, I got it. I got it. I'm not this body. This isn't my real home. This is what brahmacharis are to learn." And the king didn't learn it in his brahmacari class. So he learned it later in life. And he became a very, very super elevated devotee. Super elevated devotee. In his very same body, he became elevated to the heavenly planets and was the king on Vidyadhara Loka. So there's a long, it continues. But the point is, a brahmachari is an essential training. It's not like negation, but it's the temporary is not who we really are. It's not a real home. It's not where we belong. We're living here, but we have to navigate our way through the temporary to reach the eternal. And there's other things that they're trained not to become possessive. For example, something that's not here, but Prabhupada would speak regularly about brahmachari training, is the young boys would be trained two things. Any woman they see is addressed as mata. So that when they grow up, every woman, other than one's wife, is mother. Women are to be respected. Little boy is trained. Women are to be respected. And then in the mature stage, protected because of respect. Not the other things that sometimes people do, that if they don't understand that, it's an object to exploit, like the cow and the land and women, rather than protecting. And the other is property, because money and women in the mature adult life can agitate the mind of even a good person. So wealth, the boys were sent, he'd say it over and over. Boys were asked by their spiritual master to go into the home to home and ask the people who answered, the mother that answered the door, to some alms for their guru. And whatever they received, some rice or some grain or some fruits or vegetables, they'd bring back, give to the guru. The guru would give to his wife. The wife would prepare and offer to Krishna. And then the boys would be called, because it was the property of guru. Whatever they received was the property of guru. So when they became old, whatever they received is the property of guru and God. It's not for my enjoyment. That was the training. Detachment and knowledge. Then the next goes into the ashram situation. Supposing someone, the teacher is observing the boys, and he sees this boy has this propensity. He likes to study books. This boy likes chivalry. He should learn some military combat. That boy likes working with his hands. So he should be trained. And he would train them in their occupation by seeing their nature. Or if he wasn't qualified to teach them in that particular skill, he'd send them to another guru to teach them that particular skill. That was their school system. They didn't have vocational training. They just had, because everything was based on character. And if it was seen, that was the occupation part. And then the ashram part, if it was seen that they were very contented being in this detached mood, they could continue and just be brahmachari. And if they could see that their tendency is to be attached, then fine. Based on that same principle that they learned in brahmachari life, become grihastas, but not overly attached grihastas, but grihastas that live according to the principles of dharma. That was the way of sustaining culture by the educational system for the children. And that's what's being explained here. So that's this. I'll read the phrase again and see if there's some discussion. Then he systematically, in twofold divisions, described counteraction by detachment and interaction by attachment. So if the interaction by attachment, if he saw that the young boy was not the detached type, then facility was given to the young boy to leave the school at a certain stage and enter into family life. Interaction by attachment. In the same spirit of the purpose of these objects that you're in touch with, it's meant for the satisfaction of Guru and Krishna. That foundation had been established in their school's training and system. So a king or administrator or parent or anybody that has responsibility for others needs to know the system for the progressive elevation of society. So let's see if there's some duties of mankind discussion from any of this. Can you speak into the microphone? Because that way people online can hear you too.
Hare Krishna Maharaj.
Hold it like this. Hold it like straight towards your face. No? 90 degrees. Ah.
Hare Krishna Maharaj.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. So duties of mankind is the first to be not to get angry and
No, first is become a human being.
like know who we are, who I am.
Yeah, start with being a human being. And then not angry is
The first one.
with one of them, yeah.
And try to tolerance.
Should I read the line? You want to hear them again? Yes, she wants to hear.
Okay.
Then you can come back to your question. Okay. Bhishma Dev advised for all human beings 9 qualifications. 1, not to become angry. 2, not to lie. 3, to equally distribute wealth. 2, to forgive. 5, to not beget children, to beget children only by one's legitimate wife. 6, to be pure in mind and hygienic in body. 7, to not be inimical toward anyone. 8, to be simple. 9, to support servants or subordinates. Now, your question.
So, yeah, that is like a first question, like first how to be knowing who I am, what is my duty in this world. But this is not my body, this is my soul, right? I connect with
Yes.
Krishna. We are part and parcel of
you're already at a higher level.
So, I mean, like my question is that it's hard to be not to get angry sometimes. How to sometimes you get angry, but
Well, you want to hear Bhishma Dev's answer?
Yes.
Forgive. That's how you become free from anger.
So forgive and forget. Forgive and forget, Maharaj.
Well, he didn't say forget. Here, as far as salvation is concerned, one has to learn to conquer the principles of lust, anger, unlawful desires, avarice, and bewilderment. To get freedom from anger, one should learn how to forgive. To become free from unlawful desires, one should not make plans. By spiritual culture, one is able to conquer sleep. By tolerance only can one conquer desires and avarice. Disturbance from various diseases can be avoided by regulated diets, and so forth. So specifically for anger is learn how to forgive. I mean, there's other things one can do, but that's the principle.
Okay, Maharaj.
Say it
thank you.
negatively. If you can't forgive, then you're going to stay angry.
No.
Now, I'm not saying you.
Mm-hmm.
I'm just speaking principle.
Mm-hmm. So I'm getting better with my so with my anger, knowing so I'm getting better. Thank
Good.
you, Maharaj.
Okay. You're getting applause from your friends here. Yay, you're doing much better.
I feel myself I'm getting better, not to attack.
Well,
so much.
let me share something with you. There's a long story short. There's one man that was attending the regular Bhagavad Gita study group in Palatine. This was a few years back, who shared in one meeting I was attending that since he was young, he always had an anger problem. And he tried anger management and this and that, and he could never, it was still there. Never completely get on the other side of it. Not like, really angry and throw a tantrum and stuff, but just like internally get angry. And he gave examples at work when things weren't going well, and instead of taking care of to make things go right, they started blaming each other and criticizing each other and so on. So by attending this Bhagavad Gita discussion group, he found that which had been a lifelong challenge for him, suddenly he was on the other side of it, or moving on the other side of it. He said it just happened at work. They did that thing again, and I was really surprised. I didn't get angry. And I was looking inside myself, saying, how'd that happen? Because I've been working on it for years. And it's the message of Bhagavad Gita. By knowledge and detachment, the anger subsided. And instead of getting angry, he was finding a solution to the problem. And they were looking at him like, hey, this man just normally would get angry at us, but now he's down the road ahead of us, already finding a solution to the problem. So Bhagavad Gita study.
Yeah, thank you, Maharaj.
Okay.
You want to know who, what is the question? Who knows the Krishna?
He wants to know who is Krishna?
And who knows Krishna more? He want to talk to
Who knows Krishna more?
Right?
He wants to know who knows Krishna more.
I said Maharaj knows more, So where is it, how Krishna doesn't come and talk to me,
why Krishna doesn't come and talk to you? You want to know? That's why? That's your question?
Yeah.
Well, you have the first thing from your side is to become qualified. This is something Prabhupada's spiritual master said. Don't act in such a way you try to see Krishna. Become so qualified that Krishna will want to come and see you. So that's your assignment. Not, hey, where's Krishna? Rather, you look inside and make yourself qualified so Krishna will want to come and see you.
Yeah, that's why I told him, Krishna is inside you. If you have a question, scared anything, you listen to your heart. And sometimes he said that, when you wake up, he knows that he's going to have a bad day or good day. And I asked, how do you know? The Krishna talk to me.
Well, you're very lucky that Krishna talks to you.
Right? Right?
Okay. Anyone else?
My older daughter, one time asked me, "Mommy, so you Krishna or like everything you like, detach everything, but we living in the material life, with a family life. It's hard for to be, then
Hard to be what?
hard to be like, follow the detachment or like those things." I told her, just chant Hare Krishna, you in like young, slowly, like, you will know. No, that's what I told her. I mean, I have my question. Okay. So my like,
How do I answer her question?
yeah,
Being in family life, how do I do what?
like, manage with maintaining like a spiritual
Manage to
life
maintain what?
and with the family life,
The relationships amongst family members?
family.
Where's your daughter? Let her ask her question.
Yeah, so no, I mean, I was just saying, it was more of a rhetorical question. Like, how can you become? How do you get yourself to be detached when you live in such a materialistic world?
How do you become spiritual in a materialistic world? That's the essence of the question. Well, that's depends on where your starting point is. So I'll just assume. Well, is it all right to assume that you have, at least in principle, you accept, I'm a spiritual entity. I'm here for some period of time in this lifetime, getting older and eventually kaput, gone. So while I'm here, I'm a spiritual entity. How do I get the spiritual part of my existence together in the midst of an atmosphere that's very materialistic? Okay, so that's a good clarity on the starting point. The instruction, here's a few things. The instruction of Bhagavad Gita is for you and for me, and persons that are in that space that we just described. Here I am. Over here is birth, and over there is death, and I'm somewhere in the middle. And how do I utilize the faculties that I've been given by God? I have some intelligence and some abilities, some capacity. How do I use that to go further towards the spiritual mission or of life when it's like lots of other stuff going on around me? Bhagavad Gita is for such people. There's a little faith, not matured yet, but some basic faith, and take that basic faith and move it along a timeline or a continuum so that gradually that spiritual position evolves. The concluding instruction is where the train is going. That is, all very nice things that I've said to you, Arjuna, they're all subordinate to one thing. Mam ekam sharanam, surrender to me alone. But then there's so many other things that come before that, like understand the fruits of your work. And how do you work? How do you live your life where you're not attached to the fruits of your work? Not just stop work, but you work without attachment to the fruits of your work. So the formula is you offer the fruits of your work to Krishna or Vishnu. That's the Sanskrit term is yagya, or the English term is sacrifice. You render sacred by act of sacrifice the fruits of your work. You cook, so you offer it to Krishna. You spend money for your family members, but do that in the consciousness that I'm doing this because this is for Krishna. That's, my son here. He's a living entity. Krishna is part and parcel, entrusted to me, his mother, to look after and care for. So let me, when I buy clothing or buy school supplies or buy, and I'm spending money, it's not just for my son. It's my service unto Krishna for this soul that's eternally part and parcel of Krishna. And this time around, I'm his mother and he's my son. That's our family relation. But the spiritual relation is he's Krishna's part and parcel. My duty as mother is to assist him in that journey that I'm also going through. And so I'm doing that on behalf of Krishna. And the qualities that I'd like my son to develop are qualities that are going to be pleasing to Krishna. And you can't give those qualities unless you have those qualities. So I have to be the mother, I have to develop these qualities more. And then as a service to Krishna. So et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Each of the things that you do, you pay your phone bill or utility bill, and you're doing that act because that's part of what I do in this world to take care of my wifely and household duties as part of the journey of the soul to Krishna. So make that Krishna connection in some, and then more, and then all of the activities. It says start in principle. One of the really good places to start is the kitchen. You do that for Krishna. I mean, it's not rocket science. It's pretty simple. One practicing devotee, mother, has two children. They're at college, and one's graduate and the other's in college. So, she's been around for a while, saying something that's really hard for me is to cook for Krishna. And I was like, what? She said, I'm so used to cooking for my family members. And I know the teaching is cook for Krishna. I'm so used to cooking for my family members, it's hard to transition to cooking for Krishna. But that's a very simple application point of being in the world and being a spiritual being in the world, that you do it for Krishna. So that then it goes to not only when you're in the kitchen, but when you go shopping. You're buying things because you want to offer something nice to Krishna instead of my tongue or my son or my husband. And, I'm looking for something very nice because it's going to be for Krishna. And then you bring it back and you clean it because it's going to be for Krishna, and you're preparing it and you offer it and you distribute it because it's for Krishna. You still do the same things. And then comes the earning of the money. That the earning of the money is for Krishna. For expenditures in relation to Krishna service. That's little. It's the consciousness behind what you do that needs to become spiritualized. That's some practical application. But the foundation for it is Bhagavad Gita, chapter 2. I'm not the body, so now that's who I am. Then there's what I do. And so that's I and mine. And then mine is what comes from me, my body. I do work. I go to the kitchen. I have a son. I have some occupation. I'm cleaning the house. I'm doing what I'm doing my duties. And you bring it, the fruit of the activity goes to Krishna. And start with something and then gradually expand that something into other fields of your life. Again, a good place to start is the kitchen, the tongue. And, the service of a wife and a mother for their family. You do it for Krishna. Doesn't mean, the family members can go take a hike or go jump in the lake or something. It means Krishna is at the center of those relationships. And you spiritualize in this world. And that's part of the soul's journey to becoming attached to Krishna, and the soul goes to Krishna, like Grandfather Bhishma.
Thank you, Maharaj.
Okay, so I think we're going to go to, unless you have something. You have something? Your daughter wants you to say something. Okay, let's.
Hare Krishna, Guru Maharaj. She is asking, what is the meaning of Krishna?
What's the meaning?
Of Krishna, Lord Sri Krishna.
The meaning of his name? You want to know the meaning of his name? Krishna means the all attractive. Krish, the Sanskrit syllable. Krish, pay attention. Krish means to attract. Krish means to attract. And Na is short for the ananda, the happiness of being attracted to Krishna. Krishna means the all attractive. And the happiness you feel when you're in contact with the all attractive Krishna. Okay, we're going to online questions now.
Hare Krishna. We have 4 online questions. The first one, or the first 2, are from Sri Radhika Mataji. She writes, I find it interesting that among the first words that Bhishma Dev spoke on his deathbed are instructions regarding Varnashrama Dharma rather than Bhagavad Dharma. Is this because A, one has to first become a human being to rise to the level of Bhagavad Dharma, or B, Bhishma Dev's teachings are embedded in the Mahabharata, the emphasis of which is moralistic conduct, plus was specifically responding to the inquiry of Yudhisthira Maharaj, who was tasked with being a king?
Yeah, it's the second one. It's B. It's B.
Okay. Next question, and I'll repeat B for the benefit of the listeners. Bhishma Dev's teachings are embedded in the Mahabharata, the emphasis of which is moralistic conduct. Plus, he was specifically responding to the inquiry of Yudhisthira Maharaj, who was tasked with being a king.
Yeah.
Question 2. The teachings that we are more familiar with lay emphasis on Bhagavad Dharma, that knowledge and detachment causelessly awaken by hearing and chanting.
Right.
Personally, I find it overwhelming when I make plans to develop certain qualities, but I do have faith that by sincerely hearing, reading, and chanting, Krishna will preserve what I have and carry what I lack.
Good.
Am I going wrong somewhere in my approach to developing qualities?
No. But I recommend, if you really are want to go further in this topic, especially with your super enthusiastic motherly spirit that passed this on to your children, you should take a look at how the devotees in Hungary have handled this topic. That is the topic of developing qualities. And it's not de-emphasis on hearing and chanting, but it's, particular application points, just like our discussion over here about overcoming anger. And, so there's explanations given how to develop qualities in addition to hearing and chanting. Next.
Next question is from Utsma Bhakta Prabhu. Can people who join modern military voluntarily, the military institution itself, be considered Kshatriyas because they both don't follow the rules of engagement and bravery?
Well, they have the occupation, but not the qualification. So without qualification, it's incomplete. So one could say so-called or pseudo or something. It's the function without the qualification. Okay?
Okay. And our last online question is, in the past, this Gurukula system gave clarity to the students as to what their position in society is, and they were happy with and accepted what the Guru said. Today's world is the complete opposite.
Yep.
How can we train students to understand and accept their natures and balance ambition with spirituality?
Well, you have to have a qualified teacher, and you have to have a qualified student, and then it's possible. And so our teachers need to become more qualified, and our students need to become encouraged to at least culturally offer respect to the qualified teacher. But that's how you get there. Qualified teachers, that's where it starts. Okay.
And there's one more question that just popped up again from Sri Radhika Mataji. How do I go about getting a hold of the work compiled by the Hungarian devotees?
I'll send you the information. For your information, Sri Radhika, in China, they're developing many things. One of them is training and education ministry. And one of the ministers, or the minister of training and education, requested a certain devotee to develop curriculum for Varnashram. They asked me, what should I do? I said, get a copy, because they read English, get a copy of the book and learn how to present it to the Chinese population with Chinese characteristics. So that's what they're doing. And that's, Varnashram 101, but it's development of qualities. So the book is available, and you can look it up online. If you can't find it, looking it up online, it's called Varnashram Compendium or something like that from Hungary. And if you can't find it, let me know, and I'll find it. And it's very useful. It may be beneficial even for the the children's training curriculum. Become human beings. You have something? Here's the microphone.
I have a Hare Krishna Guru Maharaj.
You have a which? You're on.
My question is, not related to this class. So I have this question in me like so long. I heard like Maharaj, you say we cannot call Radharani mother. And so
I said that? I don't recall having said that. But I wouldn't call her mother.
That's why I would like to know why we cannot call her mother.
I think you can, but I wouldn't personally. But I don't know. You're not. Where's this question coming from? What's the doubt? What's the foundation of the doubt rather than the particular?
Because I was like taught.
Go ahead, say it.
Sankalp, and I was talking.
Sankalp.
Yeah, and I think I share with you, and I was like, okay, so I don't know. So, and then I would like to hear.
Okay. Sankalp said that I said, I don't recall ever having said. I don't recall ever having heard. I've never heard anyone even discuss the topic. Ever. Until just now. So why the big deal about it?
No, and I want to just know, so why
Okay.
we cannot like.
Well, Radha Krishna, we don't say Mother Radha. He's Krishna's internal potency. His Krishna's Ladini Shakti. So Radha Krishna. Shri Shri Radha Krishna. That's good enough. Shri Shri Radha Krishna. Okay?
Thank you.
Go ahead. Huh? Okay, so we're going to end our program. Thank you very much. They're going to do something else online for the audience. Srila Prabhupada ki jai.
Thank you very much for giving this Sunday feast, Romapada Swami. I'd like to now turn it over to the surprise portion of the program. It's a present put together by some of the ISKCON Chicago youth. So I'm gonna turn it over and turn off my video and invite Yamuna Jivan Prabhu to take it over.
Congratulations, you finally did it. You finally graduated high school. It's college time now. Time to grow, experience new experiences. I'm so happy for you. I love you so much. Be the person that you are. You are such an amazing and sweet person. I am so lucky to have someone like you in my life. Once again, congrats on graduating and welcome to adulting.
Hey Kishori, I just want to say happy graduation. Even though you had to graduate online, we're so proud of you and everything that you've achieved. Hopefully this video will make up for some of it. Bye!
Hare Krishna Kishori, congratulations on graduating. You literally are the sweetest, kindest, selfless and hardworking and persevering and driven person ever. So, and such an amazing friend. I really miss you, and hopefully we'll see you soon. Love you, girl.
Congratulations, Kishori, on graduating. We're super proud of you over here. And
good job.
Yeah.
Hey Kishori, congratulations on graduating high school. You made it after so many years of hard work. I know you're gonna do great in college and you're gonna get to experience so many new things. You're an amazing friend and such a kind person, and I really hope that we get to make more memories together.
Hey Kish, congrats on graduating. I know you had to deal with an online graduation this year, and hopefully this video makes up for it just a little bit. Can't wait to see you at UIC next year. It's gonna be a blast.
Hey Kishori, oh my god, I can't believe you're going to college already. We met when you were like 12 years old. We were so young, and like I can't believe you're like going off, you know, into college now. That's so crazy. I hope you have a really good time, you know, good luck. And we're gonna miss you a lot. I'm gonna miss you a lot. You're like an older sister to me, and you know, I'll be texting you all the time, so wait on it. All right, good luck.
Hi Kish, we made it. Congrats on graduating high school, and best of luck in college. I know you're gonna do great, have lots of fun, and I'm self-inviting myself to spend at least one of my breaks with you in Chicago in your new apartment.
Hare Krishna Kishori, Hemang and I want to congratulate you for graduating from high school. We are very, very proud of you. Well-deserved and well-earned graduation.
Kishori, I remember the first time you came to the temple. You were just born and your mom got you in the little car seat. She introduced me to you near Prabhupada's Vyasasan. I just didn't realize how time has flown so fast. You're quite gifted, like, you know, you make jewelries for the deities. You're a good musician, you're very hardworking, and you support your dad's preaching program by doing the kids' activities. Really very proud of you, and congratulations.
Both of us wish you the very, very best for a fantastic future, that you get further educated and offer your services to Prabhupada and the world. I'm sure there will be a lot of people who you will meet, and they will feel enriched and touched by you.
Hare Krishna.
Happy graduation, Akka.
Happy graduation.
Hello, Kishori. Happy graduation. Guess what? That means you are done and dusted with your high school, 4 years of high school. Isn't that wonderful?
So Akka, you're done with 4 years of high school. That means 36 hours a week of school. Now you can go 4 years of college, and then the rest of your life of work. That's about 40 hours of work. Have fun.
Okay, that's good. So I have seen you in the past 4 years, Kishori, that you are a hard worker. You are intelligent, you are talented, but still you give 100% in whatever you take. That shows how much responsible you are. All your teachers have so much love and affection for you. They have given you a lot of wonderful compliments, which we have received in emails and in writings. They appreciate your kindness, they appreciate your attitude, they appreciate your behavior. Academics aside, academics you have done excellent. Aside that, for parents, what is more important is in high school how a child behaves, and the behavior, attitude, the compliments from teachers, how responsible you are, the compassion, the kindness, all of these matters for us. And I think you have far excelled in all these departments. We are very, very proud of you,
Yes.
Kishori.
Yeah, and then you are very hard worker. You won't take it anything easy. So I really appreciate your hard work, and then kindness, loving towards, helping tendency towards anybody, treat everybody like you. So that's why you are very special. You got a lot of awards in all the school throughout your school years, and then you have participated many variety shows, and then perform wonderfully and then full-heartedly. So don't worry that 2020 and upcoming years you will have wonderful years too. Happy.
Yeah, so we bless you.
Yeah. Wish you all the best.
Wish you all the best, and then we bless you for all your future endeavors. And pray to Kishori and all the Vaishnavas here to pray for you to achieve all success and serve all the devotees and Kishori in the future. Bye.
Love you.
Hi, Akka. I also want to say something else. Your friends are here. You see them? Your friends are here, Akka. They say waffles and waddles. Say happy graduation.
Hare Krishna. Well, this concludes, I guess, our Sunday feast, and I guess I'll also say congratulations, Kishori. It's really amazing to see you reach this step, and all the best in many more years of joyful service and personal discovery and growth in the future.
Thank you so much for all of your blessings and all of your wishes. I would not be here if it wasn't for all of your thoughts and prayers, and thank you so much. Thank you, Guru Maharaj, for guiding me through this entire path and journey. Thank you.
Okay, say something.
Hare Krishna. Thus